And welcome to this week's episode of the UFO Show on the Area 51 Sports Network, brought to you by Bet99Sportsbook.com. Today we do have Bick Nazar from Sportsnet 650 again. Bick, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks a lot for the invite.
Thanks for coming on. So before we start, today, September 30th, 2021, is Truth and Reconciliation Day. So we do want to note that we are, all three of us are on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. And how, Bick, being in the studio today, how was that? How was it today? Because I know that there was a big campaign across the country to give the voices to First Nations and Indigenous people on today throughout the radio.
Yeah, in particular on our station today, I know the morning show spoke to Jordan Tutu and also speaking to Ted Nolan on the People Show as well later in the day as well. It's, for me, it's when you hear the stories, and I thought both shows did a great job in their interviews, getting the emotions from those two people of why this day is so important. And you keep hearing over and over again of people need to start focusing on listening and start hearing. And also I think the next step of that is then applying it thereafter, right? How can you spend your whole day reading, listening on stories and think of what the next steps are? Because it's all well and good to just hear the stories, but how are you actually taking that next actionable step as part of this all? And that's the duty upon everyone outside of just September 30th.
Yeah, very well said, Vic. I listened to the Tutu interview this morning, and I think it was really telling when he was. I think it was Jason who asked him. He said, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit about your personal experience?" And he said that he's tried to speak with his father about residential schools before, and his dad for 30-something years hasn't wanted to speak about it, right? So, I mean, when you think about that, you can only imagine either the firsthand or the stories that he's heard, the terror and the just the god awful things that have happened. So I really applaud you and the rest of 650 for really putting a focus on that today.
And I think the thing that should be highlighted is the strength it takes to share those stories. And I think in moments you could hear it in the voices from him and any other interviews you're hearing today. The strength it takes to share that, it's very courageous and should absolutely be commended.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. All right. Jumping in here to some bets, Bick. I don't think we need to touch too much on the Thursday night game today. I assume Bengals minus 350. That's what you're taking?
If I'm doing a money line, yeah. If it's for the spread, to me, it's Jaguars or pass. This Bengals team is not that good. And I don't know. I get the Jaguars are bad, but I don't know if anyone can be 7.5 point favorites. The last time I looked was 7.5. It's very tough when you're not a very good team to be 7.5 point favorites. So if I had to make a pick, it'd be the Jaguars. But ultimately, I'm probably just gonna watch as a fan tonight.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the battle of the first overall picks. Mm-hmm. Jacksonville, they were saying it's the first time that Trevor Lawrence had ever lost a game before, regular season game before when he got to the Jaguars, I think it was. He went through high school and college without losing a regular season game.
Well, you're that good.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a culture shock to him. He comes in and he's starting to get smacked around. He's throwing bad passes off his back foot. So we'll see. Cincinnati's not a great team, but they look like they're more together than Jacksonville.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Jacksonville to me seems like a mess from the non-player level, right? Like you can't be in week 2 and coming out with press releases of our coach isn't going anywhere. It's a bit odd, and it just, as much as I wanted to see the Urban Meyer experiment work, and look, it's only 3 weeks into it. We got to give it some time. It hasn't gone as swimmingly as I thought, as I think he probably thought. This isn't college where you can just lord over everyone and all the decisions go your way. This is a lot different. It's a lot more corporate, and you can't get away with as much. And you've got to be a lot more inch perfect. And I know he said it to Vic Fangio of it's like playing Alabama this week. Yeah, because the talent gap is gone. You're not Ohio State, and you can't just dominate everyone. You got to win with your own accord. And right now at the coaching level, they're losing before they even kick off.
Yeah, that's right. There's no Northeastern Arkansas State on the schedule,
right?
See, they cut.
Like even Cincinnati would be the best player, like the best team on the schedule if this was college.
Yeah.
Ever since they cut Tim Tebow, it's just all gone downhill for them.
I should have kept him on.
So let's jump into some of the meat and potato games on Sunday here. One game that's interesting from my perspective is it's not really interesting because people want to watch it, but it's interesting because it's two train wrecks heading towards each other. The Chicago Bears versus the Detroit Lions. Like last week, the Lions lost in the most Lions way fashion by Justin Tucker hitting an NFL record field goal to win it. The Chicago Bears, like, what can you say about them? We don't even know if Justin Fields is going to play the entire game. You know, they're having Nick Foles run with the starters this week. So right now, the Chicago Bears are at minus 145. What do you think of this kind of game that not many people seem to be interested in?
Yeah, I totally understand people not being interested in this game. It is a divisional battle, though, so that's at least interesting to some degree. But I do look at it and I say, you know, for the last time I looked was a 3-point spread as well. And to me, these two teams are equal, and it's kind of reflective here. If you're saying the home field advantage is 3 points and let everyone bet the way they want to. So for me in that instance, like I would just take the dog and say, hey, I get a couple of points on two equal teams. And then on the money line, my general philosophy is if I'm taking the dog, I'm going to put a little bit on the money line as well. So if I'm shading anywhere, I'm going to be shading towards the Detroit Lions because as much as they are, you know, losing in the most Detroit way possible, they've looked far more functional in their games than Chicago. Chicago's got the talent, no doubt. But that new regime in Detroit, I'm not saying I'm a Dan Campbell fan. I'm saying I'm a Dan Campbell fan in relation to Matt Patricia because those players quit on Matt Patricia. And it was very obvious for 2 months in the season last year. These guys are trying. They're competing. They're in games against Baltimore. They're giving it their all. And if you can figure out effort in the NFL, it makes it a lot easier to bet on as well.
Yeah, and like, you know, the Chicago Bears, they have everybody was so excited about Justin Fields, and then they had less than 100 yards, I believe, of total offense in the first game. Like, there's something wrong with that Chicago Bears team. They got so much talent on defense. They theoretically should be having a good season, but it just comes back down to their coaching and Matt Nagy. Like, what is he's calling I don't know if he's just calling the wrong plays or they don't have the right players for the plays he's calling, or there's something dysfunctional there between the coach and the rest of the team.
I do think there's more there, but the problem is they're asking a lot of people to do things that they probably shouldn't be capable of doing. For instance, like Jason Peters, he's too old to block the left tackle spot, and now you have this rookie QB back out there, and you want to set them up as best as you can. And you're doing these empty formations. Nobody's chipping off the edge. So you have everything is just a little bit askew. And I think coaches are smart. They can figure this out. And because of what the talent that's available, if you just make minor tweaks, I think it can start to explode. Because I've actually liked what Matt Nagy has done in years past. It just seems that they put Justin Fields out there in such a bad place. And it was so hard to overcome.
So I mean, just like, you know, the way that the offense for the Bears hasn't changed, right? Like Justin Fields is a mobile quarterback. I don't know why you wouldn't, you know, do some bootlegs or have him roll out of the pocket and that kind of thing. And instead they have the Andy Dalton, you know, 3-step drop and throw, and it's not working. So Bears are a mess. I'm all over Detroit in this game. I would take, you know, Detroit +3. I'd take Detroit -7. I think Detroit's going to win this game and win it pretty easily, to be honest.
Calm down a bit. We were just talking about not taking bad teams at touchdown favorites, and they're a road team in this spot. I like, again, 3 points to me is nice. I'll take 3 points, but I'm not taking them as a favorite in this scenario.
Oh, I would for sure.
Okay, so let's jump into maybe the surprise of the NFL so far. The Carolina Panthers. They are playing the Dallas Cowboys. We got Cowboys at minus 200. Do you believe the Panthers hype, or is it more scheduling than their actual play?
I believe the Panthers hype, but like I kind of believe both. Like part of it is schedule, and part of it is there is hype around this Panthers team. You can kind of buy into both ideas, and I think that's totally okay. You know, playing the Jets and playing the Texans is obviously very easy. And then more specifically, the game against the play against the Saints, I'm high on the Saints, but when you're losing half your coaching staff and the players were out, you can kind of chalk that one up to an easy game. But I am a believer in the Panthers, and I'm taking them in this game if I had to play any side, is because not only are the Panthers getting a lot of hype, they get kind of the perfect opponent in this because the Cowboys have also not only played well themselves and have a flashy offense, they've also covered all 3 games as well. I think them and the Panthers are the only 2 teams to be 3-0 against the spread so far this season. So because it's not all buying into hype on one side and it's shared hype, I think you're getting a little bit of value on this Panthers team because I kind of think it should be closer to 2.5 points. And for me, if I'm getting over the field goal, I'd be laying towards the Panthers and probably taking it on the money line as well.
Yeah,
it seems like.
Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
Oh, yeah, it seems like the Panthers. They're in a weird situation because it feels like they're a good team, but it also feels like maybe that there's something that they're just going to crash and burn. Like, remember Jacksonville, they had the 1 win and then they lost 15 straight last year. So, but the Panthers, it's like, oh, well, they're going to lose this week and then they win. They're going to lose. So it's like it seems like they're not lucky, but it doesn't seem like they should be a 3-0 team.
Yeah. The big flaw for them is going to be offensive line. And we've already started to see like snippets of that, of them kind of crumbling and Sam Darnold just trying to make anything happen or even just taking the sack. And as the competition ramps up, obviously we'll start to see more of that because I think they very soon, though, they'll play Minnesota, who's looked a bit better than I thought. They'll play the Giants defense, which is always a bit of tough. They play New England coming up. So those are going to be matchups that maybe show a bit more warts on Carolina. But the other thing for them in this game that does really well is they're coming off of not only long rest, but Dallas is on the short week. So it's kind of the double whammy in this scenario where it's not just the 10 days rest, it's the 6 days rest for Dallas as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another game here that intrigued me, and the reason it intrigues me is when we had you on for the NFL preview, Vic, you weren't super high on the Bills. Now the Bills are playing Houston, so I think we can all agree Buffalo's probably going to win that game. But the point spread is 17.5. That seems like a lot of points. 2.5 touchdowns, 3 scores for Buffalo over. Had an okay season, but not. I don't think has been as strong as many people expected. What do you think about that spread?
Yeah, it's high, and generally speaking, like anytime you get 2 touchdowns, I'm probably just going to take the dog. As wild as that is, just blindly, I'll just say 2 touchdowns. Okay, I'll take the spread. I'll take the dog because even though Houston has had some problems here, I don't think it's been as bad as people thought. I think their defense lacks some talent, but by and large, you would say that they're kind of in the right areas, right? Lovie Smith is a good coach, knows how to get people in the right spots. And it's really just a lack of talent rather than cohesion. Whereas we look at like Jacksonville, it's a bit chaotic there all the time. Houston, I just think if they can try and give 60 minutes of effort, like it's really hard to win by 2 touchdowns in the NFL. These are still professional football players. And I know it's Davis Mills and not Tyrod and all that sort of stuff, but it's still professional football. And it's tough to bake in someone blowing another team out. And for 17.5 points, that's just too much. It's either take Houston or pass. And I'll probably lean towards passing just because, cool point. I don't need to be the one holding a ticket and like, oh, I'm the one that covered 17 points. But to me, there's no way you can take the Bills at 17 points.
Yeah, I think they said David Mills has the highest QBR of any rookie quarterback this year, which is kind of insane when you think about it.
That's pretty funny because, yeah, I mean, that's really small sample size, but it hasn't gone as swimmingly as for the rookie QBs as we thought.
So let's jump over to the West Coast because we got two huge games in the NFC West. First, and we'll touch on, I guess we'll go in order here. LA Rams versus Arizona Cardinals. We have the LA Rams at -210, the Cardinals at +180. It's an NFC West showdown. The Cardinals are looking good. The Rams are looking like they might go to the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford behind the helm. I think that this is going to be a very close game. The line is 4.5. I think that, in my opinion, you take the Rams, but I don't see them winning by over 5 points.
Yeah, I mean, this one to me might just be like another pass. It's so tough to read between this game, and I know the line I think opened up at 5, and it's gone down now to 4. I think the look ahead line was even 5.5 from last week. If I had to take a side, I'd probably take Arizona just because, point in a divisional game, I'll just take that side. And the Rams are in kind of a weird scheduling spot here because they get Tampa Bay last week because it's the Super Bowl champions. You always want to take down that team. And then next week they're on Thursday Night Football versus the Seahawks. So they get this weird sandwich spot, which traditionally I'd be all over fading the Rams. But because it's a divisional game, it just adds this extra little wrinkle of you got to be focused, you got to be on top of everything. And to their credit, they're playing really, really good football right now, especially offensively. I have my questions defensively, but they are playing really, really strong offensively. And I just think it's probably just a pass. Sometimes you look at these marquee games and you want to put a bet down, but I'm just going to watch this one as a fan and say, watch good teams do good things.
I have a feeling that this might be. Remember a couple of years ago, was it the LA Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs where they got like 50 points?
Mexico.
Yeah, I just have a feeling that this could be like one of those 40. Each team hits 40 points games. Like this has the capacity to be one of these shootouts.
It would probably have to be Kyler Murray just lighting it up and forcing the tempo on the Rams, because I imagine the Rams are probably going to want to go pretty slow on tempo here with a tough game against Tampa, and then again a short week with Seattle on deck. You probably want to limit the amount of plays. If Kyler starts scoring and starts running it up and they have to keep up, then that's something that they're going to have to adjust to.
Okay, and then let's jump over to the Seahawks versus the 49ers. We got 49ers at -150. You have the famous tweet, every Seahawks game is different. Every Seahawks game is the same. I'm at the point where I just can't even look at bets for the Seahawks. Like a couple of years ago, I put a bet on the Seahawks to win the game, and I had an over/under, and then they let in a useless touchdown with like 10 seconds left to blow my whole bet. So I don't do Seahawk betting anymore. What can we say about the Seahawks this year? It's just it's been a disaster on defense.
Yeah, and I do think they'll figure that out over the course of the season, and that's why, like right now, I still have them rated pretty high as like my power ranking, but my confidence in them is not as high. So if I look at the talent and the coaching staff, I would say this is a top 10 team. But as far as variance right now, they're providing like a bottom 5 team because it's so wild. You don't really know what you're going to get week to week. And so even though I look at this line and I say there's a lot of value on the 49 or on the Seahawks side, just because you're getting points in a divisional game, I'd usually be all over the Seahawks side. Right now, I don't know if I can back the Seahawks at this stage. It's kind of in the spot where I want to see some confirmation, and that sucks sometimes in the betting world because you want to be ahead of the curve in these spots. But right now, my faith in the Seahawks is teetering to be a consistent team. So it's one I'd probably just play the Seahawks, but at the way they're playing defensively right now leaves a lot to be desired. And I think a lot of money is probably going to come in on the 49ers in this spot too.
I don't want to over exaggerate here, but this game feels like it's, first of all, I think it's the Seahawks season. I think if you fall to 1-3 in this division, you're probably toast. And to a larger extent, it really feels like, if this game doesn't come down to, a last second field goal to lose, that this could be the end of an era in Seattle. So, just with the dysfunction you mentioned and having that sort of in the back of my mind, like I would not touch the Seahawks at all. I don't know what to say about their team, but they've had so many bad losses, and we keep seeing, the defensive players don't know what's going on. You got Trey Flowers, who clearly isn't a starter in this league, continuing to go out there. It just feels like if they lose this game, there's going to be big changes in Seattle.
Yeah, I think their season, like their schedule is still like they get to play Pittsburgh, they get to play Jacksonville, they get to play Houston this year. I think they get to play Chicago and Detroit as well. So those are 5 games you would look at and say, hey, you can get 5 wins there. It might be the season in the scope of winning the division, but I still think they'll have I still think they'll end up with at least 9 wins this season just because their schedule sets up so well that, playing the Pittsburgh team right now is just free money because that offense is just dreadful. It might be the worst offense in the league.
Well, it's also, it's when we talk about 1-3, we're also comparing that to when there were 16 games that you're playing. Now you're playing that 17th game. So all of the projections, like how many wins you need for a season, just go out the window because you have that extra game. A team in the past may have qualified with 9 wins. Now it might take that 10th win to get it. So this whole 17th game also throws off when you're trying to do playoff projections, especially in that NFC West, where it looks like every single team is going to have close to a winning record.
And I do think Arizona might fade a bit here as well. As much as Kyler is fun, I'm curious as we get like 4, 5, 6 weeks of game footage, how teams start adjusting to defend him specifically. And if they start coming up with plans versus him and not letting him get out of the pocket as much, does that limit the effectiveness that Arizona has? And their schedule is going to get tougher. They're going to play the Rams, obviously, this week, 49ers. They have Cleveland on deck, Green Bay. They played Carolina this year, so it will get tougher for them as well.
Okay, so next game, we got Denver, Baltimore. Are you believing the Broncos hype? They're at minus 105 right now on the line.
Yeah, I'm actually more in on Denver than I am on Carolina. I was actually higher on the Broncos to begin the year. For the last couple of years, they've just done subtle, smart moves in the offseason, similar to what Buffalo was doing like 3 seasons ago, where it's just planting seeds, getting ready for a later date. And if they had a true quarterback, I think everybody would be buying into the Broncos right now. But because it's Teddy Bridgewater, people are still skeptical. But they've got a top 10 DVOA offense, and they've got a top 5, I think, defense. So I'm kind of buying it. And like I know they're dinged up this week, but I'm kind of buying into the Broncos hype. And I think it sets up well this week, coming off an emotional win for the Ravens with that last-second field goal and that big victory, record-breaking. This could be kind of an emotional letdown for the Ravens. So I'm keeping my eye on the Broncos this week. I kind of want to watch the injury report as we get closer, but I had them favored in this game, and I think it opened up as the Ravens favorite and may have swung back the other way, but I think I'm going to be on the Broncos this week.
Yeah, how many people could say that the Broncos would be 3-0 and the Chiefs would be at the bottom of the division after 3 weeks? That's that's been a weird division so far. The LA Chargers look like they might take that whole division this year.
They absolutely look the real deal. Obviously Herbert's going to get a lot of the credit for it, but just being healthy, and Derwin James makes a big deal. And so if they can stay healthy defensively, that would be massive.
Okay, so let's run through the last 3 quickly here. We got Green Bay, Pittsburgh. Green Bay minus 275. Big Ben looks like a tree out there. He can't move. I don't think taking Pittsburgh is a smart idea. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not touching. I'm probably not going to go with Pittsburgh at all this year unless they're a big dog against like a bad team. Here against Green Bay, I hate taking big favorites, but I'm not sure how you're supposed to take anything but Green Bay in this scenario. I just can't get behind what the the Steelers are doing offensively. It just puts your defense in such a bad spot repeatedly. And as good as you are, eventually the dam just breaks.
One thing I'll say about this game, I just saw that TJ Watt is expected to play this week. The Packers have a ton of offensive line issues. If there's one bet I'd be looking at here, it'd probably be the under 45.5 total points. I think this is going to be a real low scoring game. TJ Watt's arguably the best pass rusher in the league, probably number 2 behind Aaron Donald. And Packers have a bad offensive line to begin with, and missing Bakhtiari and Elgin Jenkins is really going to cause some problems, I think.
Yeah, the pace of play really matters in this, and I thought last week we might see an under with the Packers and the 49ers. Maybe we look at this week and we get that under again this week because both teams do want to be ball control offenses, and I think Aaron Jones probably gets involved in this game as well, and we'll see how it turns out here.
Okay. New England, Tampa Bay, it's being built up to this amazing game. But honestly, I think I saw a tweet that said the Buccaneers look like when you steal your mom's credit card and just buy a bunch of Madden packs. They just signed Richard Sherman. We'll see. But I know it's supposed to be this big game where Tom Brady's going to become the 4th ever quarterback to beat every team in the league. But I don't see this being a close game whatsoever.
I'm probably going to be backing the Patriots in this one. Just because, again, 7-point spread. If I'm betting on the money line, I would take Tampa Bay. But I just think perception is, Tom's going to go in there and drop 50 points. And it's not fun to bet on Bill Belichick versus Tom Brady. I think just the public is going to back Tom Brady just because it's easier to relate to him because he's a player, and nobody has posters of coaches on their walls and all that sort of stuff. They always have the quarterback. And so I'm going to wait till Sunday night, and maybe it creeps up to about 8.5 or something like that. But to me, the only play here is to back the Patriots. And that's the one I'm looking at in this scenario because their secondary is rough. And I think this is going to be a throw the kitchen sink and do whatever you can to confuse and delay any decision-making on the back end. And I think you'll see a lot of play action, probably a lot of trick plays. Like, this game is going to matter a lot more to Bill Belichick than I think Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's very hard to root against the one coach who refuses to put his face in Madden.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, the last game of the week ends off with a pretty interesting matchup. The LA Chargers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr is leading the NFL. I believe he's leading the NFL in passing yards. He was just named the player of the month for the AFC. Then you got the LA Chargers, who just look like they're on a roll. LA's got the line at -165. We got a -3 spread. I like the Chargers. Do you believe that the Raiders can pull it out?
No, I'm going to be pretty much all in on the Chargers. Not to give a preview of Big Six here tomorrow on Sportsnet 650, but I've led off the segment with the Chargers 2 weeks in a row, and I think this might be my favorite play of the week with the Chargers again. I just think this team's being undervalued, and I think the perfect thing, even though you don't want to really say this because losing is never a good thing, but I think the perfect thing for the Chargers to kind of go underneath the hype a little bit was that loss to the Cowboys. And the game nobody watched in the week 1 was Washington. And I think it's taken away some of the shine off of them, even beating the Kansas City Chiefs last year. I think it's going to take a couple of weeks for the perception to follow up on how good this team might be. And to me, Justin Herbert right now, like, this is the new Brady and Manning. We saw it so many times in those guys' era. These guys are in the same division now, and they're going to be playing 2 times a year, Mahomes versus Herbert. This is like the new power of the AFC and the new power of the NFL. He is playing so good. It's unbelievable. Just this prospect that was made so much fun of. And when he got drafted so high, everyone's like, oh my God, it's Josh Allen all over again. And Josh Allen made a success. But to me, like, Herbert was awesome year 1. And he's only getting better. And I think this offense is perfectly tailored for him. And as they get more chemistry, they're really going to start showing how good they are. And a lot of people are going to start backing the Chargers pretty soon. So I'm on the Chargers this week, and I know some people are buying the Raiders hype. I'm not quite there, and so if they bust me, they bust me. But right now, I'm all in on the Chargers.
See, I'm a big Mariota fan, so
I love Mariota too. Yeah,
the fact that the Raiders refused to play him, I got to bet against them.
Yeah, that's fine. I totally get it. I'm a big Mariota guy. I wish he was in a different offense and on a different team because I feel like there was untapped potential that we never saw in Tennessee.
See, when I say that, I get laughed at. So like,
I'm with you there.
And you're looking at one of the guys who laughs at me when I say that.
I laugh all the time.
What's wrong with Mariota? The guy's a robot. It's great.
But Vic, you make a good point about Herbert, right? Because going into his junior year at Oregon, he was kind of the consensus number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have a super strong junior year. Went back for his senior year, and then when he got drafted, like you said, people were kind of questioning, what are the Chargers doing? Why are they leaving other quarterbacks on the board? And to me, Justin Herbert has just shown so much potential, and he's shown he's able to stand in the pocket and pass. He can move. I really think that Herbert is a future MVP, and I'm really high on the Chargers for this whole season. So it's I just thought it was a good point that you made about how, we get to watch Herbert Mahomes for the next 10 years, twice a year.
It's legitimately scary, like how good he's been through 3 weeks. That it's not just that, like, oh, he's got a big arm, because like a lot of guys have big arms. It's that his decision making has been so on point. The accuracy is crazy good, and it's. I know like Patrick Mahomes is the quote unquote better quarterback, but I think Herbert does a better job playing the position. Whereas Mahomes is like really flashy, but at times you look at like the way he goes about reading the defense, sometimes it can be a bit labored, and then because he's athletic enough, he can buy a little bit of time, and because he can launch it into the next century, Tyreek Hill can go chase a ball, and it looks cool, but it's not necessarily traditional quarterback play. Herbert is like hits the top of his drop, falls out, and it's a rocket, and it's going wherever he wants, and he can put defenders in such binds that they don't cover spaces that they don't think he can throw to, and then he can. There was that great throw against Dallas where Trayvon Diggs is like 45 yards down the field, like eyes on Herbert, and doesn't think the guy, because he's got the sideline protecting him, and Herbert just guns it right over him, and it's not as like 45 yards away. You think you have time to get your depth to deflect the pass, and the ball just gets on the receiver so fast that it's completion. And you just don't know as a defender, you just don't know what to do. And you're right on the MVP thing. Maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year. I think next year he'll be a popular MVP pick. But if you bought him in the preseason, hopefully you get into it this year.
That's right. And I hate to interrupt this, but we have breaking news here from IMAC. He said sides continue to hammer away on Pedersen and Hughes, hearing new contracts could come as soon as tonight. So I guess just your thoughts on that, Bick. If it looks like Hughes and Pedersen could be in camp this weekend.
Yeah, that would be pretty massive. They need to get them some games pretty soon here, or at least just get into skates. Because if they were able to play 2 preseason games, I would say, okay, that's enough. But they really just need them inside their facility and start going through this all over again. If I had to wager, I would guess one of them is going to be term, and I would assume it would be Quinn Hughes if I had to make my guesses on what these contracts kind of look like.
So prediction time. I have tickets to the game on Tuesday versus Seattle. Do we see either one of them in that game?
I don't want to firmly make any predictions, but if you just think the logistics, you would probably need 2 or 3 practices or 2 or 3 skates to get ready for a game time. So if they sign tonight, what would that be? So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, it's potential that by Tuesday that they would be ready for the Kraken.
All right. Well, I'm going to dust off my Pedersen jersey then.
So speaking of Canucks, before we let you go here, we're going to throw out 2 bets for futures for the Canucks. We got, will they make the playoffs? No is at -173. Yes is at 140.
To me, the value is on yes.
Yeah.
Just as the underdog, because a lot could happen. So I would be on the yes side.
I think it all depends on, if Hoglander plays on the fourth line, because, he was a fourth line player in practice today. So, that might sway.
Oh. Yeah, you're going the route of Batch there, of tweeting the lines as they come out. So
yeah, don't make him tap the sign.
Yeah.
It's I always laugh at when I read the Twitter people going at Brendan Batchelor thinking that he creates the lines. So if you are going for the playoffs, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Over under for points this year is 88.5. Because the no was there, they have both are actually at minus 112 right now, but I'm guessing you're taking the over at 88.5 points.
Yeah, I just think that's a hair a bit too low. For me, like the number should probably be around 91. So I'll take the over. And then, again, 91 doesn't mean that's what I think they're going to get. It's just, to me, that's a truer line. So at 88, I'll take the over.
And then, one last one here. Vegas is projected to be the divisional winner at minus 197, and then got Edmonton at plus 320. Vancouver is third to last at plus 2,000. Do you think that Vegas can keep a stranglehold on the top of the division, despite the fact that they have very little center depth and no backup goaltender, really?
Yeah, the one I would like. This is the one I would fade for the Canucks. I think that winning the division might be asking you too much. Just a lot really has to go right for that conclusion to happen, to say they're going to win the division. As much as people want to jump on Edmonton, I'm still skeptical. So I'll just rely on Vegas. They managed to make it work without centers over the course of 82 games. I don't think that matters as much given the way that they play and the way they mask it all. Come a playoff series, it becomes a different scenario, right? Because it's four games to win a series, and teams can really scout you out and really plot against you how to make that disadvantage work against you. But over the course of 82, I just think they're too strong.
I know.
Another update
I know. I
here
said
from
this
the fourth period. Sorry, go ahead. I'm just going to say another update from the fourth period. Pettersson is nearing an agreement of 3 years, 7.5 per season, and Hughes is looking at 6-year deal. Things are happening.
There you go.
Yeah. So going back to Vegas, like I've said this multiple times. I've said this to somebody who writes on Vegas for a website. I don't buy it because I just think that Robin Leonard is going to get hurt during the season, and they just don't have the center depth to really hold. You got Patrick, and that's it. Like, you can't have Chandler Stevenson as your number one center. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not in a playoff series, but during the regular season, I'm not sure if that's as big of a deal because he seems to fit perfectly for them.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. We're less than a month away for the first game. First game is in Edmonton, correct?
Yeah, on the 13th.
Yeah, so I know I'll be there on the 3rd as well to go see Seattle. Andy will be there. Hopefully the Canucks can sign Pettersson and Hughes, get this Hamonic situation figured out, and we can all just get ready for the 13th and another successful season. So thank you, Bick, for joining us. Do you want to quickly shout out all of your socials where people can hear you on the radio?
Yeah, it's at Bick650 and tune in. Obviously some lineup changes, but you'll certainly hear me Monday to Friday in the afternoon on Sportsnet 650.
Perfect. And so as per Andy, they're saying Hughes is going to come in at 7.75.
Yeah, Sat just dropped a bomb. 6 years, slightly above 7.75.
Right on. I think that means I got to get to work here. So guys, I got to run here.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you very much for joining us again here on the 3rd or on the UFO Show.